Hi everyone, it's an honor to be here again. I come from an IT background like most of the people here, and I'm actually a software guy, so I spend most of my time writing code, not managing cameras. So this has been an interesting journey. So we're Armenia360, and the premise, we're a nonprofit California corporation these days. And the premise of our project is, what if we street view mapped an entire country? And our story begins in an ancient place. The undulating, cracked pavement rocks our 80s era bends as we fly down the M12. It's known as the Yerevanyan Highway. This road connects mainland Armenia with southern Armenia, which lies along the old Silk Road and the emerging New Silk Road. It's a truly ancient place. The scene we're looking at right here is right after the Areni Valley, and that's important because back in 2011, scientists discovered a wine cave in the Areni Valley, which was carbon dated to contain wine from 6,000 years ago, the earliest known winemaking operation on Earth. In the same valleys where archaeologists also discovered the first known human shoe at 5,500 years of age. So it's truly ancient place. We're in a land shaped by a succession of ancient civilizations, from the Kura-Araxes, the Hittites, the current capital of Armenia is Yerevan. It's 2,800 years old. It's our 14th one. Armenia has survived many world empires. Armenia360 is a small team. We're 4 people. There's myself. There's Anna. She's our executive director and government liaison. We have a couple of members, Sam Mvachik. He's our resident adventurer and says no to no path. Armenia360 is a scrappy handful of engineers, a photographer, a taxi driver with a taste for adventure, a college professor with influence who saw the value of representing this place on the world's biggest map. We're remarkably lean, operating on a shoestring budget. And between all of our respective individual commitments, this is a story of what is possible by ordinary people with nothing but determination and empowering technology tools from a technology giant. Armenia360 is not a sprint. It's important to emphasize that we're a marathon. And we've been at this for the last 4 years. As such, we operate in waves, reflect on production runs, and optimize for future coverage. We're not in a hurry to get this done. We're here to generate reproducibly consistent, high-quality maps that comes as close as possible to Google's own Street View. So you have to ask, why would a software engineer decide to embark on an adventure such as this? What have I gotten myself into? That's the view for most of our production. You're in this cockpit and you're watching GPS transceivers and monitoring for flies on the camera update screen. An undertaking of this sort is serious. One does not simply wake up one day and decide, I'm going to travel 15 flight hours away and map a country in virtual reality. It doesn't happen. I'm a first-generation Armenian American. I was born in Tehran. Yet I'm so well assimilated in the US, in Washington, D.C. of all places, that up until some rather recent events, I'd never even considered visiting Armenia. I'm the least likely person to do this. In fact, I wouldn't have even set foot in Armenia if it weren't for a confluence of historical and personal tragedies converged and focused on a focal point in time, 2015. For it was the dawning of that year that I experienced a series of profound events. During that inauspicious milestone, at the dawn of 2015, I lost 3 Armenian family members. Among them were my genocide survivor grandmother and mother, who passed away within 3 hours of each other. 2015, 1915, the old and the new, hand in hand, wiped out together. These 2 remarkably strong women, these active Armenian voices in my life, the cultural representatives in our family, suddenly disappeared forever. It wasn't simply the terrible loss of loved ones. It wasn't just losing family. I spoke to these people in Armenian, and largely only in Armenian. Nearly every consolation and every condolence in my life, every typical interaction, arrived in English. And though I may even think better in English, it's still the language of the commons, of business, of friends. And therein lay the crux. It's not the language of my family. And my family had disappeared. Gone just like that. And when two close, daily active voices suddenly disappear forever, that silence can be deafening. So my family was gone. With them, with their language, my language fell silent. Half of me went silent. It was only after 6 months of this silence that I realized I'm not so assimilated after all. I'm actually a hybrid. And I realized that I had better find new Armenian voices to populate my life. Now, during this time, I received an invitation from another family member to go visit Armenia. And I accepted. And like any quasi-millennial, I decided I'm going to plan my trip on Google Maps. So here's the Caucasus on Google Maps, circa 2015. And we're going to take a detour here and get back to the objectiveness of our project. And that is, we're going to think about an idea, representedness. And if you look at this graphic, it looks really strange to say representedness. All the countries in this region look the same. They're represented at the same level of detail. They're all on a flat two-dimensional plane. They have lines and shapes and labels. They're equally represented. And it's 2015. We have Google Maps. It's the best mapping platform on the planet. So let's explore. Let's click into Google Street View and take a look around. Oh, what's this? There are no blue lines over Armenia. There's some little dots there. There's some blue dots. But none of that Street View coverage. And that's strange. I thought to myself, why? We're one of the oldest countries here. Obviously, we should have Street View. This is terrible. How am I supposed to get around, find landmarks, plan my trip? Everything I'm used to in the US and Europe just doesn't exist here. This is an unmapped place. And stop to think about that for a second. It's 2015. It's an unmapped place. How is it even possible? We have satellite imagery. And then it dawned on me, Street View isn't just some novel VR tourism mode. Street View is actually the next level of representation beyond satellite imagery. Street View is actually the highest level of representation we have. It's the highest level of mapping technology that we have. Had my view looked like this, my plans would have been completely different. I would have clicked around, I would have planned, I would have probably spent more money. What about tours and attractions? Without Street View, I'm basically subject to the marketing whims of the tour companies, and the way they represent the destination has a huge effect on how I'm going to spend my money and the economic outcomes. And then it begs the question, so what does it mean to be represented on the most detailed map on Earth? How real is your city or town to the outside world if they don't exist at that level on that map? How real are they if they do? So during 2015, I took a few painfully slow 360 photospheres. You take 36 images and spin around. It was horrible. With the Street View app, published them, forgot about them. 6 months later, I get an email from Google. Congratulations, one of your photos has 500,000 views. I'm an engineer. I've never gotten 500,000 of anything. But I was working at a VFX shop at the time, and we had some interesting 360 cameras, and I thought to myself, what if a consumer 360 camera could make a dent here? What if it could make a difference? So I decided to find out. In 2016, a journey began. Unfortunately, it's right on the seam, but that is a Samsung Gear 360. And I shipped a bicycle to Armenia, mounted a camera on my head, and got funny looks. Downtown Yerevan began to look real, began to become real. It was explorable. That year, it was viewed 2 million times in the next 12 months. On the last day of 2016 photography, I stuck a 360 camera on a monopod, put it through a sunroof, and realized, dear God, this is so much easier. But it needs refinement. So therein, I began to design a car top kit. I thought, I'll use magnets, because that's cool. Please don't do this. This particular design, well, any design, had a few requirements. It had to mount with no tools. These are my requirements. To any vehicle with a flat roof within minutes. No tools, mount within minutes. Elevate the camera at least a meter above the top of the vehicle. So I was looking at those street view images from Google, and I realized it's like a gigantic smokestack on top of a car, so it had to be elevated. Okay, so 1 meter. It had to accept any monopod or pole-mounted camera or even a tripod. So don't use this. Don't use strong magnets. This flew off at 65 miles an hour in freeway testing in California. So the force exerted by a 1 meter long lever is exactly what that is. Even on a baseball-sized camera, is about 250 pounds where it connects to the substrate. To hold professional 360 cameras that high up, you need serious tensile strength holding that platform down. We needed a new approach. That approach came in the form of opposing cargo straps. The monopod clamp was solid. The fiberglass substrate was solid. We went with fastening by opposing balanced tensile forces. TLDR, that just means that we strapped it to the 4 hinge joints of the car. Worked really well. These straps have withstood thousands of miles of photography through hairpin mountain turns. Remember that adventurous taxi driver? Yeah, he didn't like to brake very much. Through gusty valleys and semi-arid deserts, they withstood the constant several hundred kilogram lever up pull with a Insta360 Pro, with a NC Tech iStar Pulsar, didn't matter. On large 360 cameras at speeds over 120 kph, 75 miles an hour. And they never ever failed. These are the ratcheting strap tie downs. These are called Cardellini clamps. You can find them in industry film tool supply stores. It can secure 7 kilograms of camera, elevated 1 meter off the top of the vehicle. So this was rolled out in 2017. By then, we had an in-country production team. That year, we produced 7,500 360 images. Added to the 2,500, we finally got the Street View team's attention, because who uses a Samsung Gear 360 to shoot 10,000 images? That's just silly. It propelled us to 8 million views by the end of September 2018. The platform remained in Armenia, ready to work with any camera system. Now in 2018, Google rolled out the Street View certified camera specification. This was a total game changer. Major vendors like NC Tech and Insta360 released serious cameras. That summer, we shot 2,000 kilometers of high-speed Street View mapping, 727,000 published images. In the ensuing 12 months, we actually got 24 million views. But what did our high-speed production rig look like? So here you can see, it's almost life-sized. That's the NC Tech iStar Pulsar. Thick aluminum tubing replaced the monopod. The basic platform was unchanged. We added a memory foam mattress to the bottom of our platform, and that had the effect of being a shock absorber, so that when we're going over all that uneven terrain, it would actually help us out. And we fabricated some custom camera brackets. We even leveraged physical nadir branding. This was before the feature for stamping the nadir on the stitcher on the Insta360 was rolled out. So we thought, let's just make one physically. So we did. And we zip tied everything together. So branding the hood helped homogenize our identity across vendors. At the time, we really wanted to be visible on the NC Tech imagery. So we decided we'll just stamp the hood. And in the future, for other branding opportunities. Branding the doors was more for the community. It was for outreach. As we found the website URL seemed to set people at ease. So everywhere we went, we captured everyday life. Ordinary people in their daily routines caught up in something larger. And somewhere along the way, people stopped giving us funny looks. They checked the map, explored, became enthusiastic. They began to understand those funny cameras. They symbolized something. It was their representation that they symbolized on Google Maps. And then they cheered us on. And so this journey changed us as well, all 4 of us. We started detached, photographing statistically, without editorializing, without any particular interest beyond mapping. Somewhere along the way, we reached an inflection point. We captured people's lives accidentally, immortalizing them, just like the real Street View. Our strongest supporters weren't the diaspora that we thought would be, 72% of which actually lives outside the homeland. They were the natives. That farmer from Ijevan who hadn't seen his brother-in-law from Gorius in a year can now look up the town on maps, see what's changed, pick up a phone and plan a trip. They were people like Grandma Arlita, who has a concession shop near our Garni Temple. The very sort of place that increased tourism would benefit. We came to understand this was a mission of public good from something so simple as appearing on maps. So in 2018, we didn't map all the roads in Armenia. What we did do was map enough of them to make Armenia light up brightly from all four corners. What we did in 2018 was to make Armenia real, at the highest level of representation on the world's biggest mapping platform. Our data set generates between 1.5 to 2 million views per month at 0.5% conversion rate for a given search. It's about 9,000 economic decisions, actions, restaurant visits, hotel bookings, what have you, every single month. Every year, that's 100,000 economic decisions that we've helped accelerate. And all goes back to that question. What does it mean to be represented on the world's biggest, most detailed mapping platform? And here, we have a little video. There's a little montage of our making of. Made our own little backpack. Insta360 mounting brackets. That's the NC-Tech. And iStar Pulsar. There's the Insta360 Pro. Here we are capturing. It was pretty cramped in there. And here's some cool stuff. We didn't actually drive that fast, but if you speed up the 5 FPS footage and flip around in a viewer, that's the Areni Valley we're driving through. Here's a mountain pass, quite beautiful. We really captured it in 360. This is the central lake in Armenia, Lake Sevan. It's over 3,000 meters elevated. It's one of the world's tallest freshwater lakes. And here's the capital. And here's all of the coverage that we realized. Thank you.